my name is Mille, and just turned 37. Yeah. It's always difficult when you get a year older.
I
And
understand.
I'm here in Copenhagen with my 3 children and my husband. And started knitting when I was pregnant with my number 3rd child, because I had to stay still the last weeks of the pregnancy, and I thought, well, I better get something out of the time because I'm not very good at sitting still. And so I learned to knit, and it was a bit difficult in the beginning, and it was not so pretty, but I got the hang of it. I made this stack of baby clothes before she was born. Yeah. So that was why I began knitting. And that wasn't like, I began knitting in 2014, but it was really good in 2015.
Okay. And was that the first time you start knitting? Did you learn it in school or by your mother, or just?
My grandmother tried to learn it like, I don't know, 10 times when I was a child. And my mom was like, that's not gonna happen. I wasn't very creative when I was a child. Actually, I was not creative at all. I had some other interests. I was really interested in like more mathematics and chemistry and stuff like that. And the thing about making something with your hands was not for me. Every time I did, it was kind of like a mess. So I didn't have
using mathematics nowadays for all
using it now. Yeah. So that's the thing about making knitting patterns. You have to be good at mathematics. Yeah. So I can use that now.
Well, that's not my strongest point, I must say. Mathematics. And you said you started in 2014, 2015. Was it also the year you started using social media, or was that afterward?
Yes, I think it was like in the end of 2015. I had this friend, and she was making knitting patterns. And then she asked me that maybe I could join her. And then we, in the beginning of 2016, we actually opened a web shop together, and we had it for a year. It was a very good experience because it actually did what we wanted it to do. People were going in there, buying our patterns, and we could see it was kind of like in the beginning of knitting being so much at Instagram. We had an Instagram account, and we shared all our ideas and all the patterns that we had. And a lot of people were interacting with us, and it was pretty cool. But we were at a point in our lives where we were too busy to be taking care of it. So we had to call it and say, now is not the time. So we closed it, and I actually opened my own the day after, because it was just like weird that the patterns were not supposed to be out there, because people were asking, oh, I can't find it, and where can I buy it? And I thought, yeah, maybe it's a little bit easier to have a web shop by yourself, because you don't have to meet, and you don't have to ask the other one all the questions all the time. What should we do here, and what about that? And yeah, it was not the time or the place to have a business together. So I opened my own shop at June 2017.
Okay. And do you also had a side job at that time, or was it more like you're a stay-at-home mom? And
I was actually studying at that time. I'm actually a nurse, and then at that time I was studying to be what we in Denmark call a health visitor, and it's such a strange title. But the thing is that all the families in Denmark who give birth to a baby, it's my job to visit them and make sure that they are safe and sound, and the baby is doing well and thriving. Yeah, so that's kind of my education. And I was studying to be this health visitor at that time. And it was it was actually working pretty good. It was just like something I did like a hobby, and it didn't take so much time, and I was just knitting however I felt like it. But in 2018, everything just went out of craziness because of the sorbet cardigan. And then I got a little bit more busy, and it was like, what am I going to do here? Am I going to do the knitting thing or my real job? I've always called it the real job or the one aside. And it's a little bit strange because now I'm living off my knitting, and I've been doing that since 2019. So it's been a while now.
Yeah, it is. And still going strong. Do you see there's more that people want to download your knitting patterns more now because of Corona, or do you see that there are more people who want to learn to knit nowadays?
Yes, definitely. There's been like a development in the popularity for some time, also before Corona, but also during Corona. Definitely, yes.
And in the beginning of your website, did you only saw Danish knitting instructions, or also translated to English or German patterns as well?
As I remember, I think I got some English translations pretty fast, because I could feel that was quite a bit asking for it. And then a little bit later, the Norwegian translations were really asking for. So it's like I've been taking it like whenever I got some comments about, I would love to knit this. Could you please translate it in English? And now when I publish something, I always translate it. Yes. So now it's just a thing.
If you have to describe your style, which type of style do you have concerning to the type of clothes you design?
I started making a lot of designs for children, especially for girls, because I'm mother of 3 girls. So it was what came into my mind. Like I was, many of my designs started with me seeing some details in sewn issues, items. For example, a little blouse in my daughter's wardrobe which had a little frill on the shoulder, and then I thought maybe you could knit that. So that's actually how my first inspiration came from. I saw a lot of nice details in sewn clothes, and then I took it to knitwear. And then in like the last 2 years, I've been mostly making designs for adults, not men, women. And it's been kind of like, what do I need in my wardrobe? What would I prefer to wear tomorrow? And then I made that. So my inspiration is pretty much what I would like. And I haven't bought a sweater in like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Perfect. Do you only use the top-down knitting technique, or do you also use other techniques if you for instance, knit a sweater or a cardigan?
I only use the top-down. Yeah, I've never tried it the other way.
Okay, and why do you only use this technique? Is this the only one you know, or is it just something so easy to do? And what do you think?
I think that since that's the way I've like taught myself to knit, and now I've experienced that it's possible to take the knitwear on while knitting and then try to see, okay, am I satisfied with the circumference right here, or should it be a little bit wider, or maybe it's too wide, and also about the length. I think it's hard sometimes to know where you want the particular knitwear to be, which length you prefer. and I like to try it on, and that's not a possibility knitting the other way. So I still have that in the future. I think it's why I do it. I think it's very easy, and that you can settle the length at the body and the sleeves just to the person you're knitting.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, because we talk about the top-down knitting, but here in Switzerland they don't do it that often. We see that most bloggers and other designers love to do it. But if we have to write knitting instructions, it's mostly like straight from bottom up, or that you have to sew everything. And we see like a trend with the Scandinavian designers that almost everything is top knitted down.
I'm a little bit allergic to the thing about like sewing it together. I've tried some items in the past, and I think, oh my god, I'm so terrible at it. And then I thought that it's too hard for me. I can't do it. I can't make it as pretty as I want. But I think it comes with practice. If you do it more, then maybe I would be better at it. Yeah,
I think so as well. And do you think that is just something like every designer wants to do, like to knit top down, or is it more a Scandinavian thing? Because we see that most Scandinavian designers only using this type of method.
I think that it's like kind of like rings in the water. I met a German lady earlier last year, and she was knitting a lot, and she was like, oh my god, I want to knit all these German patterns, but they're all doing from down and up. So she actually bought all the Scandinavian patterns because she wanted the top down as well. So I think it's kind of like, maybe in Denmark, I think it was also from down and up in the past, in the old days. I have a lot of magazines, which is from the 60s, and everything is down and up.
Okay.
Maybe it has just been a development, and like seeing that it's also a possibility. I don't know which is, if the one or another is better, but it's kind of like a habit, maybe more than an actual choice. But I think that I've come to develop some like options when knitting top down. Also like not doing only Rowland, but also doing other. So yeah, I don't know if it's trend or it's just a habit. Maybe it's more like a habit than a trend. Yeah.
And if you design something new, where do you get your inspiration from? Is this from these old magazines you told about, or also for instance, on Pinterest, or something you see in the shop maybe?
Yeah, I love to go through my old books and magazines whenever I feel like getting some inspiration. And when there wasn't Corona, I also went to a lot of, what's it called? Markets with old things.
Yeah.
And a lot of persons have had like old sweaters and old children's clothes. And then sometimes when I saw something that were cool or something that I wanted to take over in knitwear, it was mostly sewn items. Then I bought it for cheap money, and then I took it home, and then I used it as inspiration as well. But I also like to sit in a cafe and look at all the persons walking by, and I often see something that I have to write it down because that was cool, or that was a nice detail or something. Yeah, I'm not doing that so much right now because everything's closed in Denmark. So
here as well.
Yeah, but I'm also looking at fashion, of course, and checking out trends and whatever. But I wouldn't say that I'm all controlled by that. I'm actually a little bit more inspired, but what do I need in my wardrobe for tomorrow?
Yeah.
What do I miss? What would I like to wear myself? And that's also been the way I've designed for children.
Okay. And do you have some tricks or tips for people who want to start to knit, or may have some difficulties with top-down knitting?
Nike said it, just do it. It can't go wrong. It takes some practice, of course, but just do it. And I would say, I think there's been a development in how perfect it has to be. And it makes me a little bit sad that if you don't feel it's 100% perfect, you can't, like, for example, share it maybe on Instagram. So I'm advising a lot to be not so perfection all the time, and it's okay for me to see that I've made it with my own hands, more than it looks like a sweater came out of a machine. So that's also a good advice.
Okay, good. And do you also have like a tip which yarn for the first time you could best use? Is more a thicker yarn or a fingering weight, or what do you advise?
I got this thing for silk mohair. Everybody did, like the last 3 years maybe, and I still like it. It gives the knitwear a little more fineness and fluffiness, and yeah, that's definitely one of my favorites. But I don't have only one, because I also just like a straight wool. And it could be thin and it could be thick. I think the kind of the wool's possibilities in knitwear, I'm completely blown away what it does when you knit with it. Yeah, and yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, I think.
Okay. Do you want to learn in the future new techniques to knit, perhaps more, like, because your children are now very small, for bigger sizes, or more woman clothing, or other techniques? Do you have something in mind?
Of course, I also always have like an interest in new techniques. Right now I'm practicing knitting with more than one color at the same time, and it's pretty difficult and new to me, but that's also a good story to tell, that there are some knitting that I find difficult. I'm not an expert, I'm not the best at it, so I'm also learning by doing. And I'm also working on my perfection, because right now it's so tight that it's not so pretty. But I think with practice it will be better. So that's not what I'm doing at the moment. And also I have a lot of knitting at the moment with all the leftovers of my yarns, because when you are a knitting designer, there are a lot of leftovers, and I would like to inspire all my followers to use it for something, because I think that everybody on Instagram has a whole lot of leftover yarns in their drawers.
Yeah, me as well.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. And the sweater you are now wearing, is that the Stay Hot sweater, or the Étoile sweater, or a new design of you?
It's actually a new design, and it's actually a design I've made in collaboration. I have this little agency called Studio Cré. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen that on Instagram, but I'm joining 2 other knit designers. Because we wanted to get together, and we wanted to like help each other instead of working like against each other. And we have made 3 designs, which is going to be sold for a very good cause. And it's still a little secret, but who it is, because there are some dates we have to hold on to. But it's so fun to be able to make knitwear designs together with others, and we had a day yesterday where we took photos and videos of our thing. So it's actually a new thing coming, and when you buy it, you are supporting a very good cause.
And this design is only in one color, because we have seen the beautiful My Montana sweater as well. Mm? Will this only be the unicolor or in more colors, or?
Yeah, actually you can do what you prefer. All the possibilities are out there. The thing about the Montana sweater is so funny because nobody made a similar sweater. And I think that people find a lot of enjoyment in that they can make this one-of-a-kind piece. So I'm always like cheering up for choosing your own color. So you could do this with the leftover mohair, then the expression would be more like this. So the possibilities are endless.
Perfect. And when can we expect this new design?
It's going to be released during February, so very soon.
Okay, well, we are
There's also a sweater for children and a beanie.
Okay, and this sweater is also available in multiple languages, or only in Norwegian and Danish?
I'm actually not sure. We have talked about if it should be able to support this good cause and, for example, buying it in English. Okay. But it's a detail we're working on right now.
Well, we are very excited. We can't. Well, the last question I have is where can people find you? You talked about Instagram. What is your Instagram name?
It's my Instagram is Millefred_knitwear.
Knitwear. And then your website?
I have a website which is millefredknitwear.dk.
Okay. Why not on Ravelry, if I may ask?
Yeah, why not? Actually, when I started, I had to choose between what I had so much time, and I had to choose between how much time do I have to use at it. And I find Ravelry a bit difficult to navigate in. I haven't ever used it myself. And then I just chosen that I'm not there, and I'm on my own channel. And then you can also buy my patterns in a lot of yarn shops, both in Denmark and Norway. And I have one in Germany and one in France as well.
Perfect. So people know how to find you and your perfect, pretty designs as well. Okay, Mille, thank you very much for this short interview. It was very nice to meet you.
You too.